Hi, I'm Ying, and I got the opportunity to interview Maureen O'Keefe, the CEO of Australian College of Optometry.
I really grew up loving the outdoors, loving the idea of discovering things, feeling things, touching things, getting involved in the environment. And so I think from an early age that's something that really drove me and drove my interests in the directions that they went. I knew that I wanted to be a scientist, and I knew I wanted to move into the area of discovering things, making a difference in that environment. And so it was about persistence, I guess, working towards that goal and pursuing your dreams. You know, I guess to have that dream from an early age is a privilege, because so many people don't know what they want to do. And then in some ways the easy part was making a path towards achieving that and working along. I guess the first hurdle was actually getting to university, and it's probably a lesson in getting mentors and getting supporters to help you get to where you want to be. So fortunately I had a family member, an uncle, who became an advocate for me and managed to get my parents to agree that I would go to university in the first place. I did my studies I did a Bachelor of Science with honours, and I did that in the area of biology, so in zoology and botany. The honours year was in zoology, and I mean, what I learned in the science degree was a set of fantastic skills that are really transportable. So it really didn't matter what I did next, that science degree would have formed as good a basis whether I went on and did further research, whether I went on and did maybe a further degree in health sciences, whether I went on and did marketing or whatever it was. Those skills in research, the analytical skills, the teamwork skills, all of those skills are applicable to any job. And so science was always regarded as a harder option when I was at school, and a lot of my friends went on and did different sorts of degrees that maybe weren't regarded as being as hard. And so I guess I've always tried to take the harder path, because I think the benefits are often greater, and I've certainly found that with the science degree. I think the first job is the hardest one to get. With my undergraduate degree, I think it was very hard to stand out, and so I had done some work experience whenever I could during my time at university as an undergrad, and I found that was incredibly helpful. And it was all volunteer work. I'd volunteered I got an internship with the water body at the time in Melbourne, and I also did some volunteer work at the museum in Melbourne, and did some tutoring and at the university. And so I think, you know, I think it's really important to try to get work experience, to try to get your CV looking a little bit different and standing out. But once I got my first job, which was in research, it was a lot easier to then move on and do other things. I'd certainly encourage people to enjoy clubs and embrace them. They give you a fantastic way of supplementing, adding to your studies, your academic studies, but also you get to meet people and you develop networks. And I think networks are one of the most important things that you can build up over time to help you later on work out what you want to do, get positions, get work, and have someone to talk about careers with. I think once you're in the workforce, as long as you're working really hard, you've got the opportunity to get some track record, to get some rungs on the ladder, but you also start to meet people and you develop a network, and you also along the way get people who are your mentors. And I know when I have moved on in other jobs, in most cases it's because somebody has suggested you for a job or has supported you in getting that position. A really important mentor in my life probably came when I started working, and working in a scientific, academic environment, and that person was a mentor for my further studies, and I guess inspired me to go and do further studies. So he encouraged people to do really whatever they wanted to do, but particularly in the area of science or science management, anything in that realm, because that was something he was passionate about too. The things that I learned in my first 5 years out of university were a couple of things. One, I learned that I needed to be in a job that was continually stimulating and challenging. I learned that I enjoyed working with people. I enjoyed studying. I enjoyed taking on new challenges. And so after working in research for a number of years, I loved research, but I just felt that I needed to go back and do some further study, or felt that I needed to take on some new challenges. And so that could have been into another research role, but I needed to do a PhD, and although I would love to have done that, decided I should go out and get some work experience, earn some money. So that then took me into more management roles, but still in science. So throughout my career, that passion about science and education has continued, and I've always worked for not-for-profit, for public good organisations because of that. So I guess that's a common theme, and no matter where I've worked or what I've done, it's always been about new challenges, learning, working with people and with teams, and pursuing further opportunities for study if that was available. I think you've got to somehow demonstrate. I mean, when you first graduate, there's a lot of people with good marks, and it's how to show that you're going to be successful. Particularly if you're going into research, you've got to show that you've got an inquiring mind, that you are going to think outside the square, that you really are going to put the effort, the hard yards in to be able to be successful. I'm certainly aware from my time working at the Walter and Eliza Hall how difficult it is for women who go on to do research. And I was in research for a while, but I then made the decision to move out of research for a number of reasons into scientific management. But working at WeHi and seeing young women trying to carry out a research program, which might be running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and trying to have a family, or making the decision to start a family, was quite challenging. And I certainly am a strong advocate for supporting, putting in place structures for women to be able to stay in the workforce in what they're doing, so that they have a fair chance to, a fair go at moving up through the career paths. I think probably the hardest decision I made was when I left a position I had at the University of Melbourne to go across to Walter and Eliza Hall Institute. And I think that the challenge there was that it was a bit out of my comfort zone. You know, I was very happy doing what I was doing. An interesting thing around that was that position had been advertised in the paper, and I had looked at it and turned over the paper one day and saw the ad for the job, and I thought, wow, what a fantastic job. You know, it's working in medical research, it's a company, it's education, it's all the things that I was really interested in. But at the time I looked at it and I thought, wow, wouldn't that be fantastic? But there's no way I would ever get it, so I didn't even apply. But I always remembered the job had been advertised, and then 6 months later they hadn't filled the job, and I got rung by a recruiter and asked would I be interviewed for this job, and I just thought, oh, they've made a mistake. And I went over and I had 2 interviews and got offered the job. So I think, you know, I think sometimes you hold yourself back and make decisions harder than they should be, but holding yourself back and not taking the risk or underestimating what you're able to do, I think is something that I very much learnt from that job change. The advice that I'd give to undergraduate science students is to I guess, work hard, try and get experience over the holidays, approach all of the research institutes, universities, try and get some work experience so that you can demonstrate what you're capable of doing. And I think understand what you're passionate about. I think that's a really important thing. If you're passionate about something, you're going to work much harder at it, and you're going to be much more persuasive when you're talking to somebody who's interviewing you for a job, that's what you love doing. You'll also then choose the right subjects and the right pathway. You don't need to worry in a sense, because it will be what it will be, because the path nowadays is not to, well, even for my journey, where you started out isn't where you're going to end up. But as long as you know what you love, what the essence of you is and what your passion is, then everything will fall into place, because you'll be attracted to jobs that will take you in that direction, deliver what you need. And I guess that's where you hear a lot in the management material at the moment about being authentic, being an authentic person. And I think basically what that means is be yourself. And if you're not being yourself, then you're not going to find out where you belong, and you're not going to be successful in your journey, because you'll go into cultures or workplaces or environments or type of work that doesn't really suit you, or where you don't really fit. But if you know where you want to get to, and you know who you are, and you communicate that, then you'll get there. Look, there is, and it's one that I've been living by for a long time. If you've got passion, if you've got faith, and you're willing to work hard, you can have anything or be anything that you want in the world. And that's something that I strongly believe in.